Good morning, readers. Happy Sunday to everybody. Hopefully you're having a great weekend so far. Hopefully it's been fantastic. Hopefully you're doing the deal and having a grand old time out there. So, welcome to my bedroom. Strange, right? But hey, listen, I record wherever I need to record. Right now the whole family is downstairs doing their thing, which gives me limited space. I do like to be in a different area, but fuck it. You do what you gotta do. What are we here for? Well, it's Sunday, and as you know, I'm sure you saw all the stuff down there. We're doing another introduction to the Sleepy Hollow incident, another character introduction. This time we are going with Jerry Hardwood. Now, again, this is from part 2, like Detective Carver was last week. He was part 2 as well. Part 2 is when, other than Ren comes in part 1, but part 2 is when you start seeing this entire list, this secondary cast of characters starting to come out, starting to weed out throughout part 2, right? So, and we don't get too much of a spoilers with these chapters. I'm trying to choose chapters that are not, that are all spoiler free. Obviously, any chapter you read is going to tell somebody about the story, but that's the whole point of doing these readings now, isn't it? Then it is. We are going to introduce you today to the character named Jerry Hardwood. Now, I like these chapters that were selected for a bigger purpose, too. Number one, it introduces you to Jerry Hardwood and the Hardwood family. It gives you a little bit background about them, but also the mansion. The abandoned mansion, the Gothic mansion that's in Sleepy Hollow, where the heart of the story really takes place. This is the first introduction to the mansion as well, and Jerry Hardwood. And we'll have a little bit of a appearance from our good friend Ren, who we got introduced to a few weeks ago. I believe he was the first character introduction. Correct. That's right. So we did the first 2 chapters, and then I started reading with the character of Ren. Again, last week with Detective Carver, and then today with Jerry Hardwood, and we'll kind of go on from there. What's funny is I haven't even introduced you to the main characters, Mark or Lori, yet. And we'll see about that as we get through more of these character introductions. So as I said, this is we're going to start with chapter 18 in part 2, and then we're going to chapter 20 in part 2. And of course, you could just listen to me spout, and start reading, blah, blah, blah. Or you could hit the mute button, hit the pause button, go down and just read the chapters yourself. They're all down south there. And other than that, or you could read along with me. It's kind of completely up to you. Without further ado, let's get into it. Nice Sunday morning reading, always fun. I have a podcast that I'm recording later today. What is it? The Dark Mind Podcast. Not bad. Vincent Midgard, I believe is how to pronounce his last name. But I've interviewed with him before, actually, when my book Gollum came out. So this is definitely kind of like a reunion. It'll be a good time. I'm looking forward to a very good conversation with Vince. So he's a good guy. Knows his stuff. And the Dark Mind Podcast, check it out, 100%. He interviews authors all the time. He's got a great podcast, very interesting stuff, great interviewer, great man. Check him out. Even before, mine's going to be recorded. It's not live. It'll record, and then he'll put it out probably in about a month, and then we'll go from there. I'll obviously post that out to the world. So before I get into this, FYI, just book 3 drops on Tuesday. Obviously, you're going to hear from me on book launch day, so you'll know it. But book 3 in the Sleepy Hollow incident does launch on Tuesday. Good stuff. Remember, all the ebooks are on Kindle Unlimited. Run over to Amazon, download, enjoy. I like Gothic horror, especially during the winter months. Nice cold feel. It just feels so much better. Goes along with it. So, without further ado, I take a little sip of water here, and then let's get to it. All right. Okay. Sleepy Hollow incident, part 2. This is in book 1. Part 2 is in book 1. This is chapter 18, and this is the introduction to Jerry Hardwood and the mansion in the woods. Let's go. Jerry Hardwood tugged at his collar to release some of the heat from beneath his shirt. The afternoon sun was beaming through the trees as he waited for the client to arrive, listening to the songs of crickets basking in the light. He received a phone call a few days ago with an inquiry about the house he was standing in front of. The house that was abandoned more than a century ago had been on the books in his family's company since long before he was born. But the agency never listed the property for sale, so the fact that his new client knew of its existence was odd. It came out of left field, but was exactly what the business needed. Exactly what Jerry needed too, a fat check to bolster his bank account. According to his father, who passed on to the netherworld 2 months ago, the house was not to be sold. Never. The why behind it was as mysterious as the house itself, and to be honest, it gave Jerry the creeps. His father, Boyd, had been tight-lipped about the house, although he had whispered something on his deathbed that raised a few eyebrows. There's a portal to hell in the basement. Granted, the man was delusional in those final days, hopped up on painkillers and government weed. So Jerry dismissed his father's warning, and considering the family business was in dire straits, Jerry was more than willing to sell the house for a substantial amount of money to the highest bidder. He scanned across the property. The western woods stood proud and in waiting. So much land circled the house. There were over 10 acres of woods. The surrounding land was also owned by the family business and came with a stipulation not to sell, which burned Jerry's bridges more than he liked to admit. It's a waste of prime real estate, and after all, they are in the real estate business. So why not release their most valued property to the developers who would come crawling out of the woodwork with offers and dreams of prosperity? Tons of room to build townhouses or even houses in this area. Jerry chewed his bottom lip, then checked his watch. 2:30. His client was late, over 30 minutes late. He wasn't surprised though. Considering the road stopped half a mile from the house, anyone who wanted entrance would have to walk the half mile to get to the front door. Perhaps his new client had expected the walk, something Jerry cursed himself for not knowing. He'd never been here, so how could he know? If he'd purchased one of those new cell phones, he would have been able to contact his client, but of course he didn't. Jerry heard about those damn phones and how the phone company was charging up the ass for service. Parting with wasted money was not in Jerry's best interest. So he decided to wait until the new fad turned into the norm, which is when those prices would come down. Let those other fools be the guinea pigs for phone companies. I'll wait until they come back to Earth to get mine. Remember, the story takes place in 1997. Much different thought process about cell phones back then. He wished he'd brought his water with him, though. Jerry was parched, his mouth and throat arid like desert heat. He walked around the property hoping to find a well pump or spring or anything he could find for a drop of water. But there was nothing, of course. Although he was amazed at how the forest circled the property, leaving a vast open area around the house as if the trees refused to move closer. The ground was desolate and brown, no grass, no trees, no life. Even the birds refused to fly over the property. He remembered his surprise when the client inquired about the house specifically. Jerry had been certain any would-be developer would bulldoze that fucker to make way for affordable housing or mansions, depending on how deep the developer wanted to line his pockets. However, his new client seemed very interested in the house, but not the surrounding property. He hadn't asked one question about the property. Jerry looked up at the house. 3 floors of stone looked back at him. Most of the windows had been blown out long ago, and he wondered how many kids lost their virginity over the last century within the confines of the house. He read the property description before he arrived. Upon entering the front door, there is a living room like a ballroom with a fireplace. To the left of the front door is a kitchen and a large dining room. On the right is a hallway that splits in 2 directions. 6 bedrooms branch off the left side of the hall, and a large open room opens up on the right. There is a staircase when first entering the hallway from the ballroom. The second floor has 12 bedrooms, and the third floor is a loft or master bedroom with a cylinder-shaped room that made the house appear like a castle with its peaked roof carved from stone. Quite the large house, but what could you actually do with it? Since electricity had not been invented when the house was built, any electrician would lose their mind trying to wire the house. Plus, Jerry was more than certain the wood had rotted a long time ago and would need to be replaced. Nope, it was better to bulldoze this fucker and start fresh. He heard a branch snap, and he just about jumped out of his skin. His breath hitched in his throat, his heart raced into overdrive. A bead of sweat dragged across his temple to his jawline. The sound came from the front of the house. Jerry swallowed his breath with a gasp. That must be my guy. He shook the cobwebs from his head before trekking to the front of the house to greet his new client. The new client, who was facing the front door, all hunched over and dressed in all black. He looked like a vampire from Jerry's vantage point. His bald head gleamed in the sunlight. Jerry cringed when the man turned to greet him. Vampire was a spot-on depiction. He looked dead. His skin was pale and waxy, as if he'd taken a bath in milk. His long nose gave way to beady black eyes, and his short stature made him seem more like an underprivileged child than a man. His buck teeth completed the picture, cementing Jerry's vampire theory. Maintain, Jerry told himself, maintain. Sometimes the way a client presented turned Jerry's gut. Although if the man has money, who gives a shit what he looks like? Jerry offered his hand. Mr. Field, it's a pleasure to meet you. End chapter. Nice. That's chapter 18. Now we're going to skip over. I'm going to get past 19 and hit over here to number 20. There we go. Nice. Okay. Chapter 20. Remember, book 1, part 2, the Sleepy Hollow incident. Chapter 20. Mr. Field had no interest in the surrounding 10 acres of property. As far as Jerry could tell, he never even looked at the property. His interest lay solely with the house, as if he'd come across a hidden gem no one in the world knew existed. To Jerry, his new client seemed to have come home. And what was with this new client anyway? He may be short, but he had a voice that belonged to a giant, and he held himself with a rare sophistication Jerry had only seen in his European clients. If he had to place the slight accent that traveled across Wren's lips, he would have guessed German or perhaps even a hint of Russian, although he could never be certain. Sometimes accents get lost in translation. Wren had asked Jerry to open the door as if he wasn't aware that all he had to do was turn the knob. There was no lock on the door, the same as every teenager over the decades who had come to the house. Well, it is your home, Mr. Hardwood, and out of respect for your home, I must politely request for you to invite me in. To which Jerry cocked his eyebrows and studied the daylight. If Wren was a vampire, he'd be looking more like burnt melted butter than a man of flesh and bone, considering the sun was strong today and out in full bloom. Jerry sensed an immediate tightness in his chest, some state of paranoia that manifested within him. He swallowed his breath with a gulp down his gullet. Of course, he said, let me get that door for you. Wren stepped to the side as Jerry pushed on the double door that went no more than an inch into the house, buckled and pushed back. Quite the embarrassing moment for Jerry. He pushed again, but to no avail, as if someone was behind it, keeping the door from opening. He regarded Wren briefly. It must be stuck. But his voice trailed off when he saw the dark clouds rolling towards them as the wind kicked up a few notches. Wren was standing like a statue, his right hand held palm up across his stomach. Jerry noticed his long fingers and pointy fingernails and the look in his eyes, those beady eyes stretched wide with anticipation. Jerry had a fleeting thought to run and hide and forget about the money. This was all too weird. Thought about telling Wren he'll have to come back another day. Yeah, when Jerry can have a few people with him, because the door won't budge. You're being paranoid, he thought. Just get the damn door open. He cursed himself for not opening the door while he waited for Wren. He must be getting rusty. Normally, Jerry would have gone through every inch of the house prior to his client's arrival, but he truly believed this meeting was about the surrounding property and not the abandoned house. The house that creaked under the wind's gale when Jerry noticed the sun had disappeared, washed away by dark, threatening clouds. Now the rain started. Sporadic raindrops slapped against the porch. Now he really thought differently about entering the house. Being stuck in a dilapidated and abandoned mansion in the middle of the woods during a rainstorm with a stranger who looked like a vampire was not how he planned to spend his afternoon. The things you do for money, he thought. Jerry pushed his shoulder into the door, hoping with every fiber of his being that the door would not budge. So why am I still pushing? The door swung open and Jerry fell to the ground as the door slapped against the back walls. Jerry swallowed a mouthful of dust and dirt, which did nothing for his arid throat. He coughed something awful, on his knees on the dust and dirt-covered wooden floor. The sky grew dark as he rose to his feet, coughing and brushing the dirt off his pants and shirt. He was in the ballroom. The room was vast with a fireplace that looked like it had seen better days on the wall leading to the hallway. The ceiling was low, and Jerry was well aware the stairs would be cramped. Claustrophobic is how Jerry described it. He knew about these old mansions. They always squeezed any host or guest with their cramped walls and tight spaces. He noticed Wren never said a word. Jerry regarded his new client, who stood at the entrance looking in as if he could not cross the threshold. He turned to Jerry with an anxious stare, as if his anticipation had reached a fever pitch and he couldn't wait any longer to enter the home. "Come on in. You are more than welcome." He gestured for Wren to enter, and the sudden smile that crossed Wren's lips turned Jerry's gut. Wren closed his eyes when he said, "Thank you, Mr. Hardwood," and stepped across the threshold, when thunder raged above the house with a howling wind that tore through the open doors. The same wind that pressed against the nape of Jerry's neck like a hand that cringed Jerry's bones, cascading down his spine. Jerry didn't know where to begin. There wasn't much to say, considering the house was in shambles, with dust and dirt covering just about every inch of the floors and windowsills, and cobwebs draped across the walls and ceiling. Sure, a huge renovation job would bring the house back to life, but what was there to see now? So he said the only thing he could think of. "Is there a part of the house you'd like to see more than the others, like the master bedroom? We can start up there and make our way down if you like." Now the heavens opened up, dousing the house with sheets of rain as the wind rifled through the open windows. Wren was looking over the house, standing tall and erect with his hand in front of him, still palm up. "Wren," Jerry said, attempting to snap Wren's focus and get this tour started when Wren trained those beady eyes on Jerry. "Should we start in the master bedroom? Is there any room in the house you'd like to see first?" To which Wren grinned and said, "Yes, Mr. Hardwood, I'd like to see the basement first." Remember what his father said his warning: there's a portal to hell in the basement. Anyway, that is your introduction to Jerry and the mansion. Obviously, that mansion has central in the entire story, 100%, as is all of Sleepy Hollow. I always say Sleepy Hollow is a character itself in the story. Now, when you're reading this book, if you don't feel like you're walking around the streets of Sleepy Hollow, I have not done my job well. That's all I got to say about that. That is a fact. But Sleepy Hollow is its own character in the story. Another side character, Sleepy Hollow, the mansion as well. I mean, it's Gothic story, right? So what do we need in Gothic story to really click it open? We need a lot of Gothic atmosphere. We need the foreboding mansion. We need a lot of that stuff. Sleepy Hollow gets that done just perfectly. Anyway. All right, cool. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you love it. Remember, it's available on KU. I got paperbacks, hardcovers, limited editions, all that good fun stuff. All those links are below. Have at it. Enjoy. Book 3 comes out on Tuesday. Very excited. Yeah. Keep going. And that's about it. So what do we got going on? Okay, so next Sunday is our monthly musing. So that is our monthly musing. So we're going to do that at that time. And then we'll be back the week after with another character introduction. These character introductions are probably going to go for the next few weeks, probably about mid-holidays, I would say, maybe a little bit longer. But I hope you are enjoying them. I 100% do. I hope my reading is going well. Any feedback is always appreciated. And then that's right. So next week on Saturday, I got a big event. I'll be in Brooklyn. I'll be in New York. I'm going to go and hit Sleepy Hollow as well, too. More than likely. Hopefully I could get there. I'm not gonna have a car. I'm gonna have to borrow someone's car, but it's definitely possible for me to get there and just kind of take a walk around, have fun, kind of like relive some nostalgia, visit some old sites, all that good fun stuff, and obviously take some pictures. But the event I am attending, I'm an author at this event. It's called the New York City Indie Horror Book Event. Not bad. Very excited. So I'll be back in my old playing ground, my old stomping ground. Quite excited. It looks like a fantastic event. It's the first time they're putting it on, but from what I've seen and the feedback that they're getting is it should be a pretty spectacular event. And of course, I'll take get on my Facebook page. You can see pictures on there, or TikTok. You'll see some videos on there that are coming out probably that day that are going on, kind of like of current events. So definitely check that out. And I will be back soon, and I'll see you all soon. Enjoy, be well, be merry, and definitely keep reading. Bye-bye.